Anuradha Nakshatra, cognitive subconscious patterns, audio, visual, and kinesthetic. Some individuals process the world primarily through auditory channels, language, tone, inner dialogue, and sound. Others are strongly visual, learning and experiencing life through imagery, symbolism, or spatial recognition. Still others are kinesthetic, processing through sensation, movement, and emotional resonance. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, discipline, and associated with Mitra, the deity of devotion and friendship, leans strongly toward kinesthetic and auditory processing. These natives are deeply emotional but controlled, internally intense, externally composed. Their minds often absorb experience through body memory, emotional undercurrents, and subtle tone rather than overt information. However, when stabilized or creatively engaged, their visual side may emerge, especially through symbolic pattern recognition, astrology, music, or emotionally charged imagery. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 10th houses help shape which sensory filter dominates their cognition. If Saturn is in the 1st or 3rd house, the processing leans toward kinesthetic with emotional regulation. These individuals learn through repetition, stillness, and embodied memory. In Anuradha, Saturn gives them the ability to absorb emotional or social cues deeply, though they often keep their response internal. If Saturn is in the 10th, they manage emotional intensity through action. They are known for composure under pressure, channeling emotion into focused output. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, auditory processing rises to the surface. These natives think in words, patterns of speech, or internal conversation. In Anuradha, Mercury adds the capacity to decode tone, meaning, or subtext. They often hear more than is said. If Mercury is in the 10th, this auditory awareness becomes professional. They may become communicators, counselors, or tacticians who use silence and words with equal skill. If Moon is in the 1st or 4th house, the style is deeply kinesthetic emotional. These individuals absorb feelings through the body, tension, warmth, fear, trust, and hold on to emotional memory. In Anuradha, Moon adds softness to Saturn's reserve. They process through deep feeling, but often behind the scenes. If Moon is in the 10th, this somatic intelligence informs how they lead. They know when to act based on what they feel in the atmosphere, even if they don't articulate it. If Venus or Jupiter is in the 5th or 9th house, the processing expands toward visual symbolic cognition. These individuals absorb beauty, harmony, or universal themes through symbolic sight, often connecting emotionally to visuals, sacred patterns, or intuitive imagery. In Anuradha, this translates into spiritual or creative expression. They may understand complex emotional truths through metaphor, astrology, or visual art. If Venus is in the 10th, this becomes public. They bring harmony, design, or visual clarity to emotionally sensitive work. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the processing becomes nonlinear and intuitive. These natives absorb through psychic flashes, emotional vibration, or karmic echo. In Anuradha, Ketu intensifies their emotional depth and detachment simultaneously. They may know something deeply, but struggle to explain it logically. If Ketu is in the 10th, they may operate in roles that require energetic discernment, healing, spiritual guidance, or subtle leadership. Anuradha's cognitive style is defined by emotional depth, inner sensitivity, and somatic awareness. They often process quietly but thoroughly, absorbing the tone beneath the words, the energy beneath the form. Their growth lies in trusting their inner knowing while learning how to express it clearly. When balanced, Anuradha becomes a master of emotional intelligence, able to sense, interpret, and act with wisdom, all while moving through life with quiet precision and soul-level insight. Anuradha Nakshatra, motivation direction, towards versus away from. Some individuals are driven as a goal, seeking growth, connection, truth, or mastery. Others are motivated away from something, acting to avoid pain, rejection, chaos, or emotional vulnerability. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, discipline, emotional restraint, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, devotion, tends to lean toward an away from motivation style. These natives are highly attuned to emotional undercurrents and are often driven by a need to avoid betrayal, disconnection, or loss of control. Their outward discipline masks deep inner intensity, and many of their choices stem from a desire to protect what they feel too deeply to easily express. However, when supported by purpose, faith, or secure relationships, Anuradha can shift into a towards orientation, especially in devotion-based goals or spiritual growth. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 6th, and 10th houses reveal whether they act more from preservation or pursuit. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, the motivation is clearly away from, rooted in duty, fear of failure, or karmic caution. These individuals often act to avoid disappointment or emotional exposure. In Anuradha, Saturn reinforces boundaries. They seek stability, consistency, and control. If Saturn is in the 10th, this may manifest as career-driven stoicism. They rise steadily, motivated to avoid chaos or criticism more than to seek glory. If Mars is in the 3rd or 6th house, motivation shifts toward proactive towards, especially in structured or disciplined environments. These individuals are driven to overcome obstacles, prove themselves, or protect others through action. In Anuradha, Mars tempers emotional sensitivity with boldness. They act in service of what they believe in. If Mars is in the 10th, they channel this into leadership. They move toward achievement with quiet force, often under pressure. If Moon is in the 1st or 4th house, motivation is deeply emotional and protective, often away from. These individuals act to avoid emotional rejection, instability, or feeling unseen. In Anuradha, the Moon amplifies vulnerability. They may pull away before others can wound them. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional motivation shows publicly. They work hard to gain recognition, but it's often rooted in a need to feel safe, loved, or emotionally anchored. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the motivation becomes purpose-driven towards. These individuals are guided by belief, meaning, and spiritual growth. In Anuradha, Jupiter helps elevate emotional caution into wisdom. They move forward not recklessly, but faithfully. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they lead with quiet confidence, motivated by their principles and a desire to serve something greater than themselves. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the motivation becomes amplified towards, often with urgency. These individuals seek transformation, power, or identity through visible achievement. In Anuradha, Rahu adds ambition to Saturn's restraint. They push forward even while battling inner resistance. If in the 10th, they are often seen as driven professionals, rising through intensity, yet still seeking emotional safety in what they build. Anuradha's core motivation is to preserve what matters: loyalty, love, stability, and inner truth. Their instinct is often to retreat, reflect, or build walls, but their soul longs to move towards something sacred. Their growth comes in learning that protection and progress are not opposites, that it's possible to move forward without losing what they value most. When balanced, Anuradha becomes a steady flame, quietly lit, fiercely loyal, and unwaveringly devoted to purpose, even when no one is watching. Anuradha Nakshatra, attention direction, self or others. Some individuals naturally direct their attention inward, consistently monitoring their thoughts, emotions, and inner state. Others direct their attention outward, staying tuned to the behaviors, needs, and emotional signals of others. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, self-discipline, containment, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, harmony, friendship, leans toward an others-focused attention style, especially in relational and emotional environments. These natives are deeply attuned to interpersonal dynamics, often reading emotional nuance, shifts in tone, and subtle cues from those around them. However, under emotional pressure or when feeling misunderstood, they can sharply retreat into self-focused introspection, processing everything in solitude before re-engaging. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses influence how this dance between internal and external awareness plays out. If Saturn is in the 1st or 4th house, attention is largely self-directed, but in a guarded, reflective way. These individuals are hyper-aware of their emotional landscape, motivations, and vulnerabilities. In Anuradha, Saturn intensifies self-observation. They track their responses carefully and rarely act without internal permission. If Saturn is in the 10th, this inner monitoring carries into public life. They may appear measured and composed, always watching themselves in roles of responsibility or visibility. If Moon is in the 1st, 4th, or 7th house, the attention shifts toward others, particularly in emotional or relational contexts. These individuals naturally feel what others feel, often absorbing emotional undercurrents. In Anuradha, Moon brings a sensitive attunement. They may adjust their mood or behavior to maintain harmony, even at the cost of their own emotional needs. If Moon is in the 10th, this other's awareness becomes professional. They may be adept at managing social dynamics, leading with emotional intelligence and subtle empathy. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, attention leans outward, especially through mental and communicative engagement. These natives observe how others speak, respond, and think, often adapting their words or ideas accordingly. In Anuradha, Mercury sharpens perception. They are thoughtful listeners, capable of reading subtext and tone. If in the 10th, their ability to monitor others becomes a tool in their public or career roles, they may be strategists, advisors, or calm communicators who command trust through awareness. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, attention is generally self-directed, guided by inner philosophy, principles, or personal growth. These individuals are less concerned with approval and more focused on internal alignment. In Anuradha, Jupiter provides a steady inner compass. They may look outward to guide or teach, but their choices are usually filtered through personal belief and value. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this self-rooted awareness translates into leadership. They model integrity, staying focused on what's meaningful rather than what's reactive. If Rahu is in the 1st or 7th house, attention becomes intensely others-focused or self-obsessed, depending on placement. In the 1st, the native may be highly conscious of how they appear, constantly recalibrating based on external response. In the 7th, the obsession flips. They become fixated on relationships, power dynamics, or how others affect their sense of identity. In Anuradha, Rahu magnifies emotional sensitivity. They're often deeply affected by what others project, leading them to either over-accommodate or withdraw. Anuradha's attention pattern is devotional, sensitive, and relationally intelligent. These natives are masters at sensing others, often offering loyalty, support, or silence when words won't do. But their true growth lies in balancing external empathy with internal truth. When they learn to listen inward as deeply as they listen outward, they become powerful empaths and protectors, those who serve from emotional clarity, not just emotional instinct. When integrated, Anuradha embodies focused presence, attuned to others, yet firmly rooted in self-awareness. Anuradha Nakshatra, understanding chunk size, big or little. Some individuals grasp life in big chunks, absorbing overarching themes, symbolic truths, and broad emotional or spiritual meaning. Others prefer little chunks, processing reality through details, step-by-step logic, and careful sequencing. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, patience, and associated with Mitra, friendship, loyalty, leans toward a little chunk understanding style. These natives are naturally reflective, emotionally cautious, and methodical in how they learn and integrate information. They prefer to build clarity layer by layer, often needing to feel emotionally safe and intellectually grounded before fully absorbing deeper meaning. However, once inner trust or spiritual maturity develops, they are capable of expanding into big picture insights, especially in matters of devotion, psychology, or karmic growth. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, and 10th houses help determine whether they stay focused on the pieces or rise into the full pattern. If Saturn is in the 1st, 3rd, or 10th house, the cognitive style is strongly little chunk, grounded, structured, and built through disciplined repetition. These individuals process carefully, preferring to test ideas against real experience. In Anuradha, Saturn brings a quiet mental resilience. They don't rush comprehension, but once they understand something, it becomes part of their core. If Saturn is in the 10th, this manifests publicly. They are seen as steady, thoughtful, and reliable thinkers who build trust through depth, not speed. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 6th house, the mind is analytical and detail-focused. These individuals enjoy sorting, editing, and categorizing information. In Anuradha, Mercury sharpens their mental precision. They often track emotional and verbal nuance, noticing subtle shifts others miss. If in the 10th, they may work in fields requiring exact communication, emotional intelligence, or technical mastery, building a reputation as quiet problem solvers. If Moon is in the 1st or 4th house, understanding is emotionally layered, often preferring little chunks filtered through personal memory or feeling. These individuals take time to digest, needing emotional resonance before committing something to awareness. In Anuradha, moon adds sensitivity. They may take longer to learn, but their understanding is profound and relational. If in the 10th, this becomes part of their leadership style, they lead from wisdom that's felt, not just taught. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the view broadens toward big chunk comprehension. These natives are capable of seeing spiritual arcs, moral patterns, or symbolic meaning beyond the immediate. In Anuradha, Jupiter brings an aspirational layer. They may start with caution, but grow into expansive understanding through study, devotion, or mentorship. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they blend the detailed with the philosophical, becoming teachers, counselors, or ethical leaders who can zoom out without losing touch with the emotional and human elements. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the understanding style becomes nonlinear and intuitive. These natives process in flashes, often through inner knowing rather than logic. In Anuradha, Ketu adds a mystical quality. They may not explain how they know, but their insights carry emotional and karmic weight. If in the 10th, they may have a quiet, almost psychic reputation, seen as wise beyond words or as guides who intuit what others need without spelling it out. Anuradha's true cognitive gift lies in its emotional precision and inner sequencing. These natives prefer to build understanding from the inside out, step by step, feeling by feeling. Their growth comes in learning to trust the process, knowing that clarity doesn't need to be fast to be lasting. When balanced, Anuradha becomes a quiet powerhouse of insight, capable of holding both the thread and the tapestry, grounded in the moment, but always aware of what it's connected to. Anuradha Nakshatra, frame of reference, internal or external. Some individuals rely on an internal frame of reference, guided by intuition, emotional truth, and personal values. Others look to an external frame of reference, seeking direction from authority, feedback, or societal standards. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, self-restraint, inner control, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, harmony, strongly leans toward an internal frame of reference. These natives process deeply, often turning inward before acting. They prefer to assess situations through their emotional and ethical lens, rather than being swayed by external noise. However, their sensitivity to social dynamics and deep desire for loyal, stable connections can sometimes make them temporarily responsive to external validation, especially when trust or belonging is on the line. Planetary placements in the 4th, 7th, and 10th houses influence how consistently they rely on themselves versus the world around them. If Saturn is in the 1st, 4th, or 10th house, the frame of reference is deeply internal, built on structure, emotional control, and reflection. These individuals rely on self-discipline and inner standards, often suppressing their needs until they feel it's appropriate to express. In Anuradha, Saturn reinforces quiet strength. They may not always show what they're thinking, but decisions are rooted in self-assessment. If Saturn is in the 10th, they carry this restraint into public life, respected for being composed and self-governed, even under pressure. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the frame of reference may lean more external and relational. These natives are emotionally attuned to others and may base choices on how safe, seen, or connected they feel. In Anuradha, the Moon brings sensitivity. They may doubt themselves when emotionally unsettled, deferring to others to maintain peace. If Moon is in the 10th, this external referencing becomes public. They often act to maintain harmony or approval in professional or social spaces. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the frame of reference becomes externally flexible and socially aware. These individuals process through feedback, logic, and mental observation. In Anuradha, Mercury softens Saturn's rigidity. They listen, learn, and adapt, especially in dialogue or debate. If in the 10th, they are skilled communicators who respond well to audience needs, but must still ensure they're not losing their deeper voice in the process. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the internal frame becomes value-based and principled. These individuals act according to inner belief systems, ethics, or spiritual understanding. In Anuradha, Jupiter enhances moral clarity. They trust their conscience and often follow a quiet, sacred sense of purpose. If Jupiter is in the 10th, this becomes visible. They lead from internal authority, often seen as wise, stable, and guided by truth rather than popularity. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the frame of reference often begins external, driven by image, ambition, or approval. These individuals may temporarily rely on others' validation, status, or achievement metrics to feel anchored. In Anuradha, Rahu adds pressure. They may mask vulnerability by seeking external power or respect. If Rahu is in the 10th, they are ambitious, but must learn to separate true self-worth from public image or performance. Anuradha's deeper truth comes from its inner emotional compass. These natives are self-reflective, principled, and often quietly wise. But they evolve by trusting that their internal process is strong enough to guide them through outer uncertainty. Their gift lies in discerning when to listen and when to lead, when to accommodate and when to stand firm. When aligned, Anuradha becomes the steady heart in the storm, loyal to truth, guided from within, and unshaken by the noise of the world. Anuradha Nakshatra, action preference, proactive or reactive. Some individuals are naturally proactive. They initiate, plan, and move forward with clear intent. Others are more reactive, responding to emotional shifts, external pressure, or relational cues before deciding how to act. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, discipline, restraint, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, cooperation, leans toward a reactive action style. These natives often wait, observe, and assess before making a move. Their decisions are guided by emotional undercurrents, loyalty dynamics, and karmic timing rather than pure initiative. However, when aligned with a purpose, Anuradha can become quietly proactive, especially when acting in service of someone or something they deeply care about. Their action preference is shaped by planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses, where willpower, responsibility, and public presence emerge. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, the action style is reactive with structure. These individuals move cautiously, usually after thorough emotional or situational evaluation. In Anuradha, Saturn gives patience and emotional regulation. They rarely act impulsively. If Saturn is in the 10th, they lead through steady consistency, responding to challenges with maturity and careful calculation, even if it means taking the longer path to success. If Mars is in the 3rd or 6th house, the native becomes more proactive, especially in matters of protection, loyalty, or inner justice. These individuals take initiative when boundaries are crossed or when something they value is threatened. In Anuradha, Mars adds focused drive. They may not act quickly in all situations, but when they do, it's with power and precision. If Mars is in the 10th, they're respected for decisive action, often emerging as strong yet humble leaders. If Moon is in the 1st or 4th house, action is emotionally reactive. These individuals are sensitive to inner tides and often delay decisions until they feel emotionally centered. In Anuradha, Moon creates a quiet rhythm. They may appear calm, but strong emotional waves shape their timing. If Moon is in the 10th, this reactivity shows in public. They're responsive to tone, reputation, and emotional energy in leadership roles, often adapting to maintain balance. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, action is responsive and strategic, blending reactive observation with calculated initiative. These individuals move when the conditions are mentally clear. In Anuradha, Mercury gives sharp emotional perception. They act when the conversation or timing aligns. If Mercury is in the 10th, this mental flexibility becomes a professional tool. They are known for responding with intelligence, especially in relational or communication-heavy roles. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, action may swing toward hyper-proactive, but emotionally driven. These individuals feel compelled to rise, prove, or transform. In Anuradha, Rahu stirs ambition. They push forward with intensity, but often from a place of hidden insecurity or unprocessed emotional drive. If Rahu is in the 10th, they act boldly in public, sometimes too fast, learning with time to ground action in integrity rather than impulse. Anuradha's power lies in its depth before motion. These natives don't move quickly, but they move with meaning. Their reactive nature isn't passivity, it's emotional intelligence in action. Their growth lies in learning when stillness is strength, and when silence becomes avoidance. When balanced, Anuradha becomes the quiet force, loyal, intentional, and unshakably effective, proving that thoughtful action when rooted in love or purpose is often the most powerful kind. Anuradha Nakshatra, operational style, options versus procedures. Some individuals thrive with options, valuing flexibility, experimentation, and the ability to adapt as needed. Others work best with procedures, clear structure, consistency, and a step-by-step path toward mastery. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, order, and associated with Mitra, discipline, devotion, harmony, naturally leans toward a procedural operational style. These natives are cautious, deliberate, and emotionally contained. They often prefer routines and systems that offer predictability, especially in environments where emotional or relational intensity is high. However, when emotionally destabilized or placed under relational pressure, they may temporarily seek options as a way to create space or regain control. Planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses reveal whether Anuradha leans more into structure or explores alternative paths. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, the preference is strongly procedural. These individuals need clear frameworks, defined expectations, and measurable outcomes. In Anuradha, Saturn reinforces the need for emotional containment through structured behavior. They feel safest when they know the plan. If Saturn is in the 10th, this becomes a public strength. They may be seen as reliable, consistent professionals who quietly excel through discipline and long-term commitment. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 6th house, the native may prefer procedures with mental flexibility. These individuals are thinkers and problem solvers, often blending logic with emotional sensitivity. In Anuradha, Mercury enhances quiet precision. They follow rules, but also refine them. If Mercury is in the 10th, this becomes strategic. They are trusted advisors or planners who respect structure, but excel in improving or optimizing it. If Moon is in the 4th or 6th house, the operational style becomes emotionally driven procedure. These individuals need consistency not just in action, but in atmosphere. They're most effective when their internal emotional world aligns with their outer systems. In Anuradha, Moon adds intuitive pacing. They honor structure, but it must feel safe. If Moon is in the 10th, they bring emotional intelligence to procedures, maintaining calm, clear workflows in social or leadership settings. If Mars is in the 3rd or 6th house, procedures are preferred, especially in action or protection-based tasks. These individuals use structure to sharpen their effectiveness. In Anuradha, Mars creates emotional discipline. They move with silent force, and procedures help channel that intensity. If Mars is in the 10th, they're seen as powerful but contained. They operate best when they can execute without distraction or chaos. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the native may begin with options, especially in the pursuit of identity, status, or growth. These individuals test paths, seek innovation, and sometimes reject rules early in life. In Anuradha, Rahu disrupts Saturn's structure. They may rebel against routine until they find a system that supports their unique path. If Rahu is in the 10th, they often pursue unconventional careers, but still need to develop procedural mastery to sustain success. Anuradha's operational strength lies in its discipline and emotional containment. These natives don't need chaos, they need clarity. Their growth comes from recognizing that flexibility can coexist with structure, and that order can serve emotional safety, not just control. When balanced, Anuradha becomes a quiet architect of reliability, building systems, relationships, and results that stand the test of time, all while holding space. Anuradha Nakshatra, views, general or specific. Some individuals naturally see life through a general view, focusing on broad patterns, universal truths, or symbolic meaning. Others prefer a specific view, attuned to fine details, emotional nuance, and exact observations. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, depth, structure, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, devotion, emotional intelligence, leans toward a specific view. These natives are observant, emotionally precise, and tuned into the subtle shifts that others miss. They are excellent at identifying what lies beneath the surface, whether in relationships, behavior, or systems. However, once emotional security is established or spiritual insight deepens, Anuradha can expand into a general perspective. especially when integrating themes of devotion, karma, or soul evolution. Planetary placements in the first, third, fifth, and 10th houses reveal whether they stay in fine-tuned focus or widen into a broader frame of understanding. If Saturn is in the first, third, or 10th house, the view is strongly specific. These individuals look for structure, accuracy, and concrete reality. In Anuradha, Saturn makes their perception emotionally cautious. They prefer to examine slowly, draw conclusions carefully, and respond only when grounded in clarity. If Saturn is in the 10th, their public or professional reputation often reflects this. They are seen as thoughtful, precise, and emotionally composed in their perspective. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the mind is alert and detail-oriented. These natives naturally analyze, compare, and mentally organize what they perceive. In Anuradha, Mercury enhances critical thinking. They may quietly notice contradictions, word choice, or tone before others do. If Mercury is in the 10th, they're known for their intellect and discretion, able to communicate sharp insights with refinement and subtlety. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the view is specific and emotionally anchored. These individuals interpret life through the lens of feeling, remembering tone, emotional atmosphere, and intuitive impressions. In Anuradha, Moon adds depth to perception. They notice micro-emotions, energy shifts, and quiet patterns in human behavior. If Moon is in the 10th, they bring this emotional perception into leadership. They guide based on empathy, though their sensitivity is often masked by calm professionalism. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the view begins to widen toward the general. These individuals are capable of stepping back to see moral themes, spiritual paths, or the karmic implications of events. In Anuradha, Jupiter elevates perception. They still feel deeply, but now connect those feelings to broader truths. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are often teachers or guides, sharing philosophical or ethical insights through structured, emotionally grounded leadership. If Ketu is in the 1st or 5th house, the perception becomes symbolic, abstract, or intuitive, seeing deeper layers of meaning that may not be fully verbalized. In Anuradha, Ketu can disconnect from surface-level detail and instead process through subtle cues or karmic memory. If Ketu is in the 10th, their insights often come across as spiritual or profound. They may lead or work in roles that require energetic or intuitive intelligence more than intellectual precision. Anuradha's natural perspective is like a lens that zooms in emotionally, quietly observing, sensing, and refining their understanding of what's happening beneath the surface. Their growth lies in learning when to zoom out, when to allow emotional or spiritual context to provide clarity beyond immediate details. When balanced, Anuradha becomes a master of emotional discernment, able to perceive both the smallest shift in tone and the larger soul pattern behind it. Their gift is precision with depth and devotion to truth, whether personal or universal. Anuradha Nakshatra, work preferences, together, proximity, or solo. Some individuals work best together, sharing energy, collaboration, and consistent interpersonal exchange. Others prefer proximity, working independently but near others, with space for connection when needed. And some thrive solo, in full emotional and energetic control of their space, pace, and process. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, discipline, inner containment, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, emotional depth, devotion, strongly favors solo or proximity work preferences. These natives need emotional safety and space to self-regulate. While loyal to teams and deeply relational in nature, they often prefer to work alone or near others without being entangled in constant interaction. Their work preference depends heavily on planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses, where emotional rhythm, discipline, and external responsibilities take shape. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, the preference is clearly solo. These individuals are private, focused, and responsible. In Anuradha, Saturn deepens emotional restraint. They perform best when they can maintain composure and control without needing to emotionally navigate others in real time. If Saturn is in the 10th, they may rise through steady, quiet dedication, seen as reliable, often working behind the scenes in structured, results-oriented roles. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the preference leans toward proximity. depending on the emotional tone of the environment. These individuals need relational warmth, even if they don't want constant engagement. In Anuradha, the moon softens Saturn's reserve. They'll work well near others who feel emotionally safe and harmonious. If moon is in the 10th, they are careful about emotional presence in public, drawing strength from select relationships while managing visibility with care. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the preference becomes proximity with autonomy. These individuals enjoy mental stimulation and occasional collaboration, but want full control over execution. In Anuradha, Mercury supports intelligent boundaries. They may work best when they can contribute ideas without emotional obligation. If Mercury is in the 10th, they often take roles where communication is key, but solo contribution is valued: editing, analysis, research, or strategic advising. If Mars is in the 3rd or 6th house, work becomes solo-driven through action. These natives are fiercely protective of their workflow and may feel frustrated by disorganized or emotionally charged group settings. In Anuradha, Mars gives quiet fire. They work best when left alone to conquer a task. If Mars is in the 10th, they may rise in leadership through focused independence, delivering strong results without needing hand-holding or constant input. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the native may appear socially active but internally prefers solo or proximity. These individuals often seek recognition or influence, but don't always want emotional closeness. In Anuradha, Rahu adds drive. They may engage with others when it benefits their vision, but ultimately want full autonomy. If Rahu is in the 10th, they are often public-facing, but internally self-contained, working independently to craft a powerful image or legacy. Anuradha's ideal work environment is quietly powerful, structured, emotionally grounded, and energetically protected. These natives are capable of deep commitment and sustained focus, but only when they have space to breathe, feel, and recover. Their growth lies in learning to honor their emotional limits while maintaining devotion to purpose. When aligned, Anuradha becomes a quiet force of excellence, loyal to their craft, steady in execution, and deeply capable of success when given the room to unfold at their own pace. Anuradha Nakshatra, experience, association versus dissociation. Some individuals live through association, fully present, emotionally immersed, and engaged with life's sensations and feelings. Others experience life through dissociation, stepping back from emotion, analyzing from a distance, or detaching to preserve internal order. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, emotional regulation, detachment, and associated with Mitra, devotion, loyalty, emotional bonds, tends to oscillate between both. These natives often begin with deep association, absorbing emotion, loyalty, and intensity in relationships or experiences. However, when hurt, overexposed, or emotionally destabilized, they quickly shift into dissociation as a form of protection. This duality creates a pattern of inner depth paired with outer restraint. Planetary placements in the 4th, 5th, and 10th houses reveal where and how this balance between immersion and withdrawal plays out. If Saturn is in the 1st, 4th, or 10th house, the experience leans toward dissociation through control. These individuals often keep their emotional intensity beneath the surface, engaging only when safe or required. In Anuradha, Saturn builds emotional armor. They feel deeply but express sparingly. If Saturn is in the 10th, they appear calm and composed in public, often hiding emotional struggles behind professionalism and duty. If Moon is in the 4th or 5th house, the experience becomes more associated, especially in private or creative spaces. These natives feel life through the body and heart. They remember emotional textures and are deeply moved by loyalty or betrayal. In Anuradha, the moon softens Saturn. They may stay engaged in emotional experience longer than others, even when it hurts. If moon is in the 10th, this emotional association becomes part of their public identity. They lead with emotional intelligence, but often mask their vulnerability behind polish. If Mercury is in the 5th or 10th house, the style leans toward mental dissociation. These individuals observe and analyze their feelings rather than fully engaging with them in the moment. In Anuradha, Mercury brings emotional strategy. They prefer to process logically before responding emotionally. If Mercury is in the 10th, they are seen as level-headed and diplomatic. often managing complex emotional dynamics with calm rationality. If Mars is in the third or sixth house, the experience is selectively associated. These natives engage when there's purpose, action, defense, or loyalty to a cause or person. In Anuradha, Mars adds focus to feeling. They immerse in experience when driven by loyalty or mission, but detach quickly when trust is broken. If Mars is in the 10th, this manifests as passionate but boundaried leadership. They engage, then retreat to regroup. If K2 is in the first or fifth house, the experience becomes spiritually dissociative. These individuals often feel disconnected from worldly emotion or joy and may navigate experience through inner symbolism or karmic intuition. In Anuradha, K2 intensifies withdrawal. They may appear present, but internally are always watching from a distance. If K2 is in the 10th, they may feel emotionally absent from success, achieving externally while remaining inwardly detached. Anuradha's relationship with experience is defined by loyal immersion and protective withdrawal. These natives feel deeply, love loyally, and often sacrifice for what they believe in. But they also know when to pull back, detach, and protect their emotional center. Their growth lies in learning to stay present without losing themselves, and to step back without disconnecting completely. When integrated, Anuradha becomes a wise emotional strategist, able to feel with depth, choose with discernment, and remain steady even in the storms of the heart. Anuradha Nakshatra approach, matching versus mismatching. Some individuals are naturally wired for a matching mindset, seeking alignment, harmony, and common ground. Others operate with a mismatching lens, focusing on differences, what's off, or what needs to be improved. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, discernment, boundaries, and associated with Mitra, devotion, diplomacy, balance, leans toward a mismatching approach by instinct, but with a deep longing to match. These natives are emotionally observant and psychologically sensitive. They tend to notice what's not said, what's slightly off, or what feels misaligned. However, because of their inner devotion to loyalty and harmony, they often try to reconcile or realign what they've observed. This creates a subtle but powerful combination. They mismatch to protect, to refine, or to preserve trust. Planetary placements in the 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses influence how and where this discernment is expressed. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, the mismatching instinct becomes systemic and precise. These individuals have a sharp eye for flaws, inefficiencies, or inconsistencies. In Anuradha, Saturn turns mismatching into duty. They feel responsible for fixing what doesn't align. If Saturn is in the 10th, they often rise through roles that require emotional steadiness and critical evaluation. Leaders who correct gently, refine carefully, and create safety through consistency. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the mismatching becomes mental and relational. These individuals spot contradictions in communication, logic, or tone. In Anuradha, Mercury adds subtle intelligence. They may not speak immediately, but they notice everything. If in the 10th, they succeed through emotional discernment. They navigate relationships, clients, or leadership roles by tactfully noticing and often correcting what others miss. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the approach becomes more emotionally mismatching, though often internally contained. These individuals feel when something is off, an energy shift, a withdrawal, a word that landed too hard. In Anuradha, the Moon makes this intuitive. They may adjust behavior to preserve peace, but they remember the mismatch. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional radar operates publicly. They manage impressions, reputation, and relationships with quiet emotional accuracy. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the native may lean toward a matching approach, seeking meaning, cohesion, or moral clarity. These individuals still see what's misaligned, but they prefer to elevate, reframe, or forgive. In Anuradha, Jupiter brings grace to Saturn's caution. They mismatch gently, if at all, and strive for resolution. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as wise guides, leaders who promote harmony while upholding discernment. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, mismatching can become exaggerated or strategic. These natives notice what's different because they are different. They feel set apart and may use that to their advantage. In Anuradha, Rahu intensifies the critical eye. They may challenge norms, question loyalties, or disrupt emotional order to reclaim control. If in the 10th, they mismatch publicly, breaking patterns, shifting power, and learning to balance ambition with emotional maturity. Anuradha's approach is defined by its emotional radar and relational discernment. These natives mismatch not to criticize, but to protect trust, loyalty, and integrity. They are quiet but powerful observers, always tracking alignment in the bonds that matter most. Their growth lies in knowing when to speak, when to wait, and when to accept imperfection with love. When integrated, Anuradha becomes the empathic strategist, using mismatching not to divide, but to deepen, a protector of truth and a keeper of sacred connection. Anuradha Nakshatra, time experience, in time versus through time. Some individuals live in time, fully present, emotionally responsive, and instinctively reacting to what's unfolding now. Others live through time, holding a long-range view, linking past, present, and future with conscious pacing and reflection. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, structure, memory, karmic progression, and associated with Mitra, loyalty, emotional bonds, leans strongly toward a through-time orientation. These natives are deeply reflective, often carrying emotional memory, karmic awareness, and relational lessons that stretch far beyond the present moment. They don't rush decisions. They track what came before and anticipate what may come next, especially in matters of trust, loyalty, or emotional safety. However, when emotionally triggered or in protective mode, Anuradha can momentarily shift into in-time behavior, responding to emotional currents with surprising immediacy. Planetary placements in the 1st, 4th, 7th, and 10th houses influence how this time sensitivity expresses itself. If Saturn is in the 1st, 4th, or 10th house, the experience of time is deeply through time. These individuals operate from memory, structure, and long-term emotional logic. In Anuradha, Saturn gives them an internal karmic clock. They take responsibility for their timing, rarely acting impulsively. If Saturn is in the 10th, they are publicly known for consistency and strategic restraint, measured leaders who act with the weight of experience behind every choice. If Moon is in the 4th or 7th house, the time orientation becomes emotionally in time, especially in personal or relational spaces. These individuals respond to emotional stimuli as it arises. They feel now and often act now. In Anuradha, the moon adds depth and vulnerability. They may be caught in emotional memory loops or act to protect themselves in the present. If Moon is in the 10th, this emotional responsiveness becomes visible. They may adjust their public presence based on social tone or relational cues. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 10th house, the experience becomes through time with mental pacing. These individuals are planners, thinkers, and reflective communicators. In Anuradha, Mercury adds mental awareness. They're likely to review the past and anticipate future outcomes before speaking or acting. If in the 10th, they succeed by timing their words, projects, or decisions for maximum impact. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, the through-time experience is philosophical and value-based. These individuals are future-minded, but not just in a practical sense. They seek growth, meaning, and long-range alignment. In Anuradha, Jupiter elevates Saturn's endurance. They act slowly, but with faith in timing and a larger purpose. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they are seen as wise mentors, guiding others through their calm, visionary pacing. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, the experience can skew hyper in time, acting with urgency, hunger, or a need to prove something now. These individuals may bypass emotional reflection in favor of immediate action. In Anuradha, Rahu unsettles Saturn's rhythm. They may feel split between the urge to rise quickly and the karmic weight that demands patience. If Rahu is in the 10th, this becomes public. They may achieve rapidly, but need to mature into long-term sustainability. Anuradha's relationship with time is emotionally encoded and karmically paced. These natives are shaped by what has come before and cautious about what lies ahead. They do not waste time, but they do honor it. Their evolution lies in learning when to pause and reflect and when to be fully present without fear. When balanced, Anuradha becomes the sacred keeper of timing, anchored in emotional depth, acting with devotion, and knowing exactly when the heart is ready to move. Anuradha Nakshatra, primary interest motivation, people, activities, places, or things. Some individuals are primarily drawn to people, connection, loyalty, emotional depth. Others are motivated by activities, purposeful action, skill refinement, and meaningful engagement. Some resonate most with places, environments that provide emotional safety or spiritual grounding. Others are drawn to things, systems, tools, or symbols that provide structure or mastery. Anuradha Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn, commitment, responsibility, and associated with Mitra, devotion, bonds, is deeply motivated by people and activities, especially those that carry emotional significance, loyalty, or karmic weight. These natives thrive in relationships marked by depth, trust, and emotional resonance, and are equally drawn to meaningful actions that reinforce that devotion. Their interest is rarely surface level. They seek out what feels enduring, sincere, or sacred. Planetary placements in the 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 10th houses reveal where this core motivation is most likely to surface. If Saturn is in the 1st, 6th, or 10th house, activities become the primary motivator. These individuals are driven by duty, refinement, and internal standards. In Anuradha, Saturn channels emotional intensity into steady action. They feel safest when they're working towards something meaningful. If Saturn is in the 10th, this motivation becomes visible. They are seen as quietly committed professionals who build their legacy through consistent effort and ethical work. If Moon is in the 1st, 4th, or 7th house, people take center stage. These natives are deeply relational and seek emotional bonding, often placing tremendous value on trust, loyalty, and emotional security. In Anuradha, Moon magnifies this. They're drawn to soulful, even karmic connections. If Moon is in the 10th, they carry this relational depth into their public life, nurturing others in leadership, caregiving, or emotionally intelligent professions. If Mercury is in the 3rd or 6th house, activities remain central, particularly those involving communication, service, or refinement. These individuals are energized by precision, thoughtful dialogue, and strategic tasks. In Anuradha, Mercury supports Saturn's detail orientation. They're drawn to problem-solving, mentoring, or quietly impactful roles. If Mercury is in the 10th, they shine through work that requires insight, discretion, and steady interaction with others. If Jupiter is in the 1st or 9th house, places and values begin to carry weight. These individuals may feel anchored in spiritual environments, sacred geography, or belief-aligned communities. In Anuradha, Jupiter elevates Saturn's devotion. They're drawn to inner sanctuaries and sacred responsibility. If Jupiter is in the 10th, they seek workspaces and roles that reflect their values, teaching, healing, or guiding from a place of moral authority. If Rahu is in the 1st or 10th house, things such as titles, recognition, or tools of influence can become early motivators. These individuals may initially be drawn to success symbols, but in Anuradha, Rahu creates a deeper hunger. Over time, they often realize that what they're really chasing is not the thing, but the emotional security or power it promises. If Rahu is in the 10th, this becomes public. They pursue mastery, but must learn to anchor it in sincerity, not just status. Anuradha's true motivation lies in devotion and depth to people, to purpose, and to emotional or spiritual evolution. These natives are not driven by novelty, but by meaning. Their evolution lies in balancing the pull of emotional loyalty with the grounding of responsibility, learning to stay connected without becoming enmeshed, and to act from love without losing clarity. When aligned, Anuradha becomes the soul-driven worker and the heart-centered companion, building a life that is steady, sacred, and deeply rooted in what truly matters.